the handful of astronauts who have set foot on the moon spend as little as a day on the surface. So, how do you build a settlement on the moon that will last for years? This is the Scienzz, and you are watching the epic quest to build a base on the moon that will last for years. Occupying the vast domes that are connected by pressurized underground passageways, also called Moonies, would work at consoles surrounded by banks of computers or bounce across the surface in moon jeeps on their way to the moon mines. Since the last astronaut left his final footstep in 1972, the only evidence that people once occupied the moon consists of little more than a few flags, 3 rovers, a dozen cameras and 96 bags of human waste. Whatever happened to the moon base we were promised? Let's start by uncovering some history. NASA's first uncrewed Artemis mission returned to Earth in December 2022 after almost 4 weeks in space. Traveling far beyond the moon, it proved the capabilities of the Orion capsule. The European Space Agency also called this as ESA Service Module. The giant SLS rocket that blasted it on its way, called Artemis II, is due to carry the first astronauts to lunar orbit in 2024, and, sometime in the middle of the decade during Artemis III, 2 astronauts will land near the lunar South Pole. At least one of them will be a woman. The crew of the final Apollo mission, Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt, spent the longest on the lunar surface of any astronauts so far, 75 hours in total. Cernan likened it to a camping expedition. They ate and slept, in hammocks, inside the compact lander and put on their spacesuits to head outside. In comparison, the astronauts of Artemis III are scheduled to stay on the moon for around a week and can expect a few more home comforts and a lot more space. The lander they will use is being provided by Elon Musk's SpaceX and is based on his Starship concept, which was originally conceived to carry 100 people to Mars. Given that NASA only wants to convey 2 people to the moon, there should be plenty of room for a laboratory, storage for a rover, and even a few home comforts like beds, a kitchen and toilet. Whatever the final specification for the Artemis III lander, during subsequent missions, astronauts are going to live on the moon for extended periods and explore further. This is likely to involve them using their spaceship as a base and traveling around in pressurized lunar rovers, mobile habitats trundling across the surface. The ESA has now developed several ways of making moon bricks, experimenting with dust that has similar properties to lunar regolith. One method is straight out of the Bond villain's handbook and involves a giant mirror and a series of magnifying lenses to focus sunlight. The heat from the light is used to melt together dust, which can be built up in layers, a 3D printer for moon dust. ESA scientists and engineers have also made bricks by heating dust in a solar oven and bombarding regolith with microwaves. In fact, they are becoming very good at it. There's no huge showstoppers in our estimation, Cowley says. People have been building bricks for tens of thousands of years. The hard part is doing it on another world. And that is the next step. One idea in the future could be an experimental extraterrestrial brickmaker. If successful, then bricks could be used to build entire lunar structures, perhaps encasing inflatable modules or repurposing defunct landers. 8 years ago, ESA's former Director General, Jan Warner, first revealed his proposals for a village on the moon. Today, those plans do not seem quite as far-fetched. Contracts have already been signed between space agencies and industry for long-term lunar infrastructure missions, such as satellites to provide communications and navigation services for the moon, and plans are being devised for water extraction from lunar ice and electricity from solar power plants. NASA's vision might not be the only one. There may be plans from other countries with their own lunar ambitions, such as China, or private ventures aiming to make money from the moon. NASA's Morency is careful to not promise a moon village in the next 10 years, but she believes within the next decade we will have at least the basic foundations for humans to live and work on the moon. I think we will have permanent infrastructure, repeatable missions that are occurring hopefully on an annual basis, and we should have a lot of capabilities to explore different regions. So, at the risk of repeating the optimism of the Usborne book of the future, if you are reading this in 40 years' time, I confidently predict we will have a moon base. So, do you have any plans on how to build a full-fledged moon base? Waiting for you creative ideas in comment section below.